cash. Oh, great. So backed by cash is, this is works a little bit differently because buy before you sell, Homeward's going to buy that home. So there's the Homeward purchase, and then the customer is going to buy it back from us. So there's the customer purchase. There's two closes. By the way, your clients only pay one set of closing costs, if any of you had that question. But with this program, this is all one contract. It's always going to stay in your client's name. Okay. And this is actually includes FHA buyers. So say you have somebody that doesn't have a home to sell, maybe your first time home buyer, okay, because the market's really rough for them right now. Finance contingencies, we've got the appraisal contingencies, finance contingencies, all these what ifs. We're waiting until like day 30, something may go, fall through. What this does, we actually attach a backed by cash addendum onto a traditional financed offer. So say you're FHA buyer. And what it's going to do is tell the seller that, hey, after the 5-day due diligence period, this deal is certain to close within 30 days, no matter what. How that works is if there's a delay with financing or if there's an appraisal, something happens with that, Homeward is actually going to step in and will buy that home on your client's behalf with all cash. They'll move in, they won't have to lose that deal, and then they'll buy it back from us when their mortgage is ready. So really, with this program, I just lost my train of thought, shoot. But with this program, it's just giving those financed offers a little bit extra of a leverage because again, in this market, your seller wants certainty. So what's great is, obviously this does have a fee as well. It's the cheapest program that we have, but again, your clients do get incentive if they do use Homeward Mortgage for their financing. That actually, that fee is wiped out. So at that point, there's no cost. Now, with this one, I will tell you, we've been test piloting this program for about a year now, and I will tell you that 5% of clients will actually have to have Homeward step in. 5%, actually, the financing is delayed. 95% of situations, Homeward doesn't have to invoke cash. So at that point, it's just a clean close for your client. And by having that certainty that it is going to close, leverage that to get some seller's concessions to have those first time home buyers be able to have that extra cash to buy down their interest rates. So just as good as cash, but it's not on the front end. So yeah, really excited about that. But yeah, those are our, I just wanted to touch on those two programs. Again, if you have any clients that you think might be a good fit, definitely, let me know. I would like to send a recap email just to, give you a little bit of recap on all of those. And if you want to get further within the fees, definitely let me know. So, but yes, here to take any questions, or if you guys do have any client scenarios that, popped up right now, I can answer those questions.
And I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So let's say in this latest scenario, you referenced an appraisal issue.
Mm-hmm.
How is that issue going to be overcome? Because if there's an appraisal issue, it's there regardless. So
good question. Good question. So we approach appraisals a little bit differently. We have a dual appraisal approach. So how we take out that appraisal contingency in that 5-day due diligence period, we're actually going to do a preliminary appraisal for your client. Now, to be clear, this is a desktop appraisal, but they're going to get that value up front. Okay, so say we buy a home for $500,000, right? Let's say that preliminary appraisal comes in at $475,000. All right. Your client's going to have that option, obviously, to back out, get their earnest money deposit back within that due diligence period. But let's say they move forward regardless. Then once that 5-day due diligence period is up, we're going to order their final appraisal. Okay. So this is going to be the appraisal we're going to use for their loan. If that appraisal comes in at or above that preliminary appraisal, we're going to move forward and close as planned. Okay. But if for some reason there's that gap and it comes in lower than that preliminary appraisal, they actually have 72 hours to back out of the deal. We'll give them back their earnest money deposit, and Homeward will still go forward and buy that home and then just sell it back out on the market. So that's how that is. They get their appraisal value up front. It's really their sneak peek into what that final appraisal is going to be, because rarely does it miss that mark. Okay. So we don't want any client to fly blind into any deal. Neither do we want you to. And that's how it actually works on buy before you sell as well. So that appraisal, that's how we're eliminating that appraisal contingency.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Am I hearing this right? So, who was talking? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it sounded like, okay, so after the due diligence period, it doesn't appraise, and then the buyer has 72 hours, okay, to say yes or no if they're going to move forward. 72 hours have passed, or no, within the 72 hours, what they said they don't want to move forward, but you will still go forward with the sale.
Yeah. And to be very clear, the 72 hours, that happens when the final appraisal comes in. So that would be at like, it typically takes like 3 weeks for that final appraisal to come in. So we're probably going to be at like day 28, day 29. That's when they'll have the 3 days to decide whether they want to back out. We'll move forward and we're still going to buy that home. Yep. And so what that really is doing is just telling the seller, like, hey, no matter what, like, we're going to close. So a little bit of negotiating power on your part.
Besides the 5-day due diligence, what are the other contingency dates or periods?
So there's the 5-day due diligence period, and then we'll order the final appraisal after that. So we're in contract. And then once that final appraisal comes in, whatever day that is, that's when they'll have 72 hours if it comes in lower than that preliminary appraisal.
No, I'm like, when an offer comes into the seller on the all cash offer, that exhibit that's going to come with it, it's going to be an all cash with the.
Okay, so we're moving to buy before you sell. We're talking about buy before you sell, right? Because that's the all cash offer. Yeah. Okay. So time frames in general. So if we're so buy before you sell, we are going to do an all cash offer on your client's behalf that's going to close within 14 days. Okay. So that deal will close in 14 days. Your client will move in, and then from the day that we close to the day that they sell their existing house, that'll be the time frame that happens before they buy the home back from us. Now they have 6 months total to sell their house and buy the home back from us, which I didn't mention before. So I hope that answers your question, maybe on buy before you sell. Now with backed by cash, think of this as like any traditional financed offer. The time frame, it's going to be that 30-day close. And there's going to be that 5-day due diligence and then that 30-day close. That doesn't change. The only thing that's changing with that program is we're adding that backed by cash addendum on the back, just telling the seller that no matter what, we're going to close, whether the financing is delayed or if there's a problem with the appraisal.
So Tim, I think basically there'd be a 0-day finance and a 0-day appraisal on the Homeward amendment to the contract.
Correct.
This just goes in addition to the conventional exhibit or whatever else,
yep.
Right.
The regular time frame wouldn't change from any other financed offer on backed by cash.
Okay.
So it's like your how I think of it. I think of it as your beefiest financed offer, like the best financed offer that you can do. And what's great about it is it's going to reach all audiences. Okay. So it's not only going to reach, the lower income buyers, the FHA buyers, there's lower credit score requirements. And guys, it's free to apply and there's no obligation to use us. So what I tell all of my agents, have your clients apply. Let's see where they stand. Let's see what program fits best for them. And then if they use one of our programs, great. But you got to remember that overall, we're a mortgage lender. We're a really fancy mortgage lender. So if you're looking for a fully underwritten pre-approval, at the very least, that's what your client is going to get, even if they don't use one of our programs, because they're always filling out a mortgage application in the beginning. All right, any other questions?
Anyone?
Going once?
Anna, thank you so much for your time. I
Yes.
really appreciate it. And I will definitely send out all your contact information, and feel free to send me the email that you said of like recapping everything, and I will send that out to the entire team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that'll be my direct line. So definitely reach out. I'd be happy to help.
Oh, and you guys, let me say this in front of Anna. If you're talking to someone and they're interested in the program, feel free to contact Anna and have Anna give them a call. I have a potential seller who wants to buy, and she's been talking about it, sitting on the fence, all of that. Anna talked to her and boom, she actually got on there and started filling out the application. So
And she's almost done. She's almost done. So yes, definitely. And I'm open to three-way client consultations. It's whatever you're comfortable with. You know, I don't mind speaking directly to your clients, but I understand that, you know, with a new program, you got to wrap your head around it, and you need to gain that trust for me. So I'm definitely able to sit, you know, you're able to sit in on the first call with both of us. So perfect. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Yeah, definitely send out my contact info, and hopefully I'll get in contact with a few of you in the near future.
Thanks, Anna.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You
thanks,
too.
Anna.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, so we're waiting for Stuart. Thought he was going to log in at 9:25. So
You want me to text him?
Yes.
I will.
And then do you want to go ahead and well, let's want to give him a couple minutes, and then if he doesn't come on, we'll just go ahead with your
Sure.
part. While we're doing all that, does anybody have any comments or anything about Anna's presentation with Homeward?
Have you ever used them? I mean, other than this one?
No, not all the way from front to end.
Okay. Okay.
But I've used Homeward and Knock for putting in offers
Mm-hmm.
back when the frenzy was going on.
Mm-hmm.
My thought was really just, oh, there's Stuart. Okay, we'll talk about that later. I'm going to let him in.
Sounds good.
Did he come in?
I'm here.
There he is.
Stuart, how
I
are you?
apologize. I had to reboot twice for some reason. It would not let me in your meeting, but I'm here.
I'm so glad you're here, and that's no problem at all. Do you want to go ahead and get started, or?
I do. And just Zoe and everyone, like, this is about you guys. I'm going to share what I'm seeing that's working really well in this market. But from a lending standpoint, I want to answer any questions or anything you guys are running into as well.
So I told everybody that you were going to talk about the new loan product, which was the FHA, and then answer any questions that you can and just give whatever knowledge that you have going on.
I'll do that. So let's start with the 100% FHA. Because right now, the way things are in the market, right, is continuing to tighten up. And what I've been working on nonstop this year is any new loan programs I can find to help one or two more people, right? This is a market where you've just got to be able to have as many products as possible. So the one I'm liking right now a lot is the 100% FHA loan. But I want to talk through how this works because I don't think it's the best loan for everyone. So it literally goes down to a 580 credit score. There's really no overlays. It's very similar to a normal FHA loan. The difference is we've got the company that's doing it has a second that they add to it for the 3.5%. So it's a 96.5 normal FHA, and then it's a 3.5% second mortgage. The second mortgage rate is 2% higher than whatever the FHA rate is on the first. So if the interest rate on the FHA is 7%, the second mortgage is 9%. And it's a higher rate, but if you think about it, on most of our FHA borrowers, it's on a very small amount of money. So the payment's not very big on it. The downside to this program, as I'm digging into it, is it's a risky product, obviously, right? And with interest rates being as high as they are, what not a lot of people realize, and it's interesting to go into this, lenders don't want to offer interest rates that are super high right now because they know that people are going to refinance out of them. So if you ever look at our rate sheets, like sometimes when someone says, I want to do a no closing cost loan, rates will only go up to so high on the rate sheet because from their analysis, they know if I do a loan at 8%, they're going to be in this loan a very short amount of time. So for this program, the interest rates are capping out at 7.25 is the highest they'll go. And what we're seeing is in order to get that rate, the clients are having to pay more points than normal. So typically on the FHA loan, we might go up to 1% buy down. On some of these scenarios, based on their credit and the risk factor of the file, it might cost 2 to 3 points in buy down to be able to do this program. So it becomes expensive. So in that case, what I'm showing every buyer is, hey, here's the 100%, here's the 3.5% down. The 3.5% down is going to have a better interest rate and lower closing cost. But the only benefit of the 100% in that scenario is the seller can pay closing costs, right? And the seller can't pay their 3.5% down payment.
Okay.
Because in a perfect world, they'd be much better off with 3.5% down. The benefit of the other program, though, is we'd have to negotiate with the seller to pay all the closing costs. And what I'm running into on a few of them, because the two I looked at yesterday, they were borderline, barely qualifying, super low credit, high debt to income. It runs out of room because on an FHA loan, the most the seller can pay is 6% of the loan amount. That's in there. So the one I ran yesterday, the seller, there was still $2,000 left over that the buyer had to come up with. Because the people that are calling me on this right now, you guys have been in this business. I was like, how much money do you have? They're like $200. I was like, well, technically you qualify for the program, but like we've got to work through some pieces and we're going to have more cash than that. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. As rates get better, it's going to be a better and better program because we're going to have options where they don't have to pay points and we can get a rate that's there. But with the market being where it is, that's what I'm running into on this one.
Gotcha.
Any questions on that?
No, I don't have a question on that one. No.
Okay, so it's an option. I think everyone should look at it. What I'm starting to do, though, is before I pull credit with these clients because of the pricing, I'm going ahead and asking them what their credit score is. And we're going to start running some numbers to make sure if they need to come up with $2,000, can they come up with $2,000 or whatever the number may be. You don't run into it as much in the city, but we do USDA 100% as well. So if you have any clients looking in a rural area, that's another 100% program. And then VA's always been 100% and is very straightforward. So I think, in my opinion, the VA loan is the best loan out there because unlike FHA, they don't have to pay monthly PMI as well. And the interest rates on VA are really good. Outside of that, we've also added bank statement loans now. So if you have that self-employed borrower that makes a lot of money, but they don't report it to Uncle Sam, We can do 12 months or 24-month bank statements. Those loans, again, are risky. So you're looking at an interest rate in the 9s probably, which in a normal market sounds excessively high. Regular rates are 7. So the delta is not as big right now. But the clients I do that for, the intention is to help get them in the home and then for them to get their taxes straight over the next couple of years so they can get back into a traditional financing scenario. We also have added an asset depletion loan. Typically, when you're looking at qualifying someone, income and assets are different, right? On a normal loan, you could have $100 million in the bank, but if I can't income qualify you, I can't lend you $100,000. This will allow us to take a formula and take their assets and create an income stream so we can qualify them. And I run into that more often than you would think because they're retired or for whatever reason, they don't have monthly income, but they do have a lot of assets.
Is that the same thing as a portfolio loan?
Portfolio loan, when you hear portfolio, Zoe, that just means a bank has depository money they're willing to lend. So this is not portfolio. I can actually do this through Fannie and Freddie through asset depletion. But yes, it's a loan that's not right inside the box. Like if you look at portfolio loan, when you hear about the 100% doctor program, that's a portfolio loan. The banks are willing to lend money out of their own depository. And what portfolio means is most loans that people do, they're going to ultimately have it so they can sell to Fannie and Freddie at any point to clear their balance sheet. Portfolio means no one's going to buy this loan. I'm going to service it in-house with my depository money.
So real quick, tell us about yourself and Cornerstone Mortgage.
I will do that. So I have owned Cornerstone for 16 years now. I went to the University of Georgia, was an MIS major. Yeah, go Dogs. And went into IT. So I spent my first career at one smaller company, but mainly at Anderson Consulting / Accenture. And I just had an opportunity. My business partner was my roommate from Georgia. So he had gotten the mortgage business right after we graduated, came to me and said, I like the industry, but I don't like my company. So we started Cornerstone Mortgage Group out of his basement, June of 2006.
Really?
So everyone's complaining about this market. I was like, I understand this market. I've been through this before. So that's where it was. Fast forward to now, we have 42 employees. We helped a little over 2,000 families last year and just have continued to grow our business. We are 100% referral based. So you're not going to really see us on any billboards or advertising. We just really try to provide value to our database and stay in touch with them. And that's how we grow our business. We are a broker, which in this market is super important because if you look at lending, you can go to a bank, which is your Bank of America, a lender, which is your Rocket Mortgage, or a broker. What I do is I have access to the bank and the lender's loans. And when a client calls me, I have a technology where I shop 12 different banks and lenders to say, based on this scenario, what is the best program for the client? And if you look at it, and Robin and I have worked together for years, we're just super competitive from an interest rate and closing cost standpoint. Because what works to my advantage is the more volume I do, the more competitive I get. Because these banks make money off the money I lend. And the more money I lend, the more they want to get it. So they offer me incentives to send loans to them. But we still manage the process. We're the loan officer on the ground. And again, I like having Robin on the call because she can attest to it. We're going to close on time every time and just make sure it's a really good experience for your client. Because the reason our business continues to grow is we get a lot of clients referring to us because we take care of them so well during the process.
All true.
Whenever I talk to new lenders, I always ask them, you know, what is this? Can you have a buyer underwritten before you get an address of a home? What is the minimum amount of days you need for financing contingency, minimum amount for appraisal contingency, minimum amount to close, and how much does the appraisal cost? And is there a rush fee? Would you be able to answer those questions for everybody?
100%. So I have not had a needed financing contingency since 2020 because in my opinion, they went away. So every client we work with, we're going to get all the documents, we're going to review it with underwriting and sign off on it. So contract wise, we can ask for contingencies again because the market's changed, but we don't ever have to have. So we can do no financing. I can close in 18 days as long as it's not a jumbo, a condo, or if I call you and say, Zoe, this client is amazing, but they won't return any calls within a 48-hour window, and they're going to never close quick on anything because some of it's client specific. But a client that knows what they're doing, ready to go, we can close them in 18 days. I can get appraisals back in as short as 5 days, but there is a rush fee associated with that. So I can get it back within 10 days without a rush fee and as quick as 5 with a rush fee.
How much is the rush fee and the appraisal?
The appraisal is $650 standard. The rush fee ranges between $150 to $350, just depending on the side of town and the availability. So the most it'll ever be is $350. And in 20 and 21, that seemed to be what they charged. Now they're a little more hungry for business. So most of the time it's maybe $150. They'll grab it and go knock it out for us.
Awesome.
And when I disclose to the client, I explain all this. I show an appraisal fee of $650 and I show a rush fee of $350. And I say, depending on how aggressive we have to get on the offer, we may have to do a rush fee. And I go through that with them so they understand it.
Okay. What questions do you guys have?
Real quick, Zoe, before we jump into that, I advertised this and talked about it. And it's funny, I think there's some people saying different things, but I personally am a big fan of the 2-1 buy down right now.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it makes all the sense in the world. If I was buying a house, if my daughter was buying a house, this is the program I would use, just because it's all about affordability right now, right? Rates are high, home prices are coming down a little, but it's still expensive. I am not a big fan of adjustable rate mortgages. I went through 06, 09, and I saw what happened. If I'm ever going to do an adjustable rate mortgage, it has to be a big difference in rate. So if rates on 30-year at 7, for me to even consider an adjustable, it's got to be 5% or below. I've got to have enough spread in the rate to be able to take on the risk. And what you're seeing with adjustable rates right now is they're just, if 30-year fixed is 7, they might be 6.5 or 6.625. It's better, but the risk of it doesn't make sense. So what I would do in that scenario is let's do the 2-1 buy down. 7% is the worst it'll ever be. Year 1, it's 5. Year 2, it's 6. And then no one can guarantee anything, but if you look at the way everything's going, I have a strong inclination that before they get to the 3-year mark, there's going to be a chance to refi. Like Fannie's guesstimating rates in the mid to high 5s by the end of next year is all about inflation now. The sooner we get inflation under control, the quicker the rates go down. But it just allows affordability. And the part that really sold me on this program is we all know the seller has to pay the buy down. And it's about 2.25% of the loan amount, but the buyer never loses that money. So that money goes into an escrow account, and all that escrow account does is bridge the gap every payment they make for the interest break. And if we get lucky and interest rates go down in 12 months, when they refi, any money left over will be credited back to the borrower, so they'll never lose it.
I thought it was 3% from the seller.
2.25% roughly of the loan amount. And I've got a calculator that shows it, but on most scenarios, that's right where it falls. And everyone, the sellers aren't complaining about it right now. 5 out of my last 9 contracts, we were able to do this, because what I want everyone on this call to understand is if the buyer's agent and the listing agent understand the 2-1 buy down, you can get it into almost any deal. Because at the end of the day, if we know this seller has to get 500 net, we're not going to get the house if they do. If you look at it and say, I'm not worried about appraisal, in that scenario, we can do 510 with 10K in seller pays, get the seller their net, and still get the buyer the benefit of the 2-1 buy down.
Hey, so can you repeat that? You said whatever's left in like that escrow account that the buyer doesn't use to bridge the gap between their pay down.
Yep.
If they refinance after, say, 9 months, they would get that money back.
They do, Ken. It goes as a principal reduction when they refi. So let's take a scenario. So on a $400,000 loan amount, the buy down is $9,100. And it saves the client $500 a month year 1. So 500 times 12 is 6,000, and $250 a month year 2. So 12 times 250 is 3,000. So that's the 9,000. So every month for the first year, they take $500 out of that bucket. So in your scenario, If they've made 9 payments, they've used $4,500 of that buy down. The other $4,500 would go back to them as a principal reduction when they refi.
And that pays for their refinancing.
It would pay for their refinance again. Only
This
thing we
is
don't know
money,
is
yeah.
I know rates are going to go down. I just don't know when. And guys, let's be clear. I'm going to talk to them about it, but you should too. I very much level set my clients. I'll say, Ken, assuming everybody's wrong and rates never come down, I need you to know at year 3, this is your payment. You got to be able to make this payment. So I don't want you to get used to living on payment year 1 and year 2. You got to know that if something goes sideways and rates never come down, that's what you're responsible for. And they get that. So as long as they understand that, then there's no risk of the program, in my opinion.
So I saw a graph the other day of 30-year mortgage rates and the treasury bills over time, over like the last 50 years, and they sort of move within like 200 basis points of one another.
Yep.
And right now they were showing the 30-year mortgage going straight up and the 10-year treasury going straight down. And when they're inverted like that, like inevitably, like the rates will snap back down to follow that trend.
They will. It follows the 10-year in most markets. They get out of whack sometimes. But if you want to really, there's so many articles you can read. But if you really want to know what's going on with rates right now, it's all about inflation. So the CPI data comes out today. If the inflation estimates any over what they anticipated, the Fed's going to feel like what they're doing is not working and rates are going to go up. If we could get good news and inflation come down any at all, then we're going to see rates settle down. Because the Fed, if you read, it's interesting when you see the Fed meet, like when they say they raise rates 0.75%, that's the Fed funds rate. First off, that is not your mortgage interest rate. The Fed funds rate is the money the banks borrow money from each other overnight. It does not directly correlate to interest rates because everyone always thinks, hey, rates went up 0.75. There's a lot of times where the Fed will raise rates 0.75 and interest rates will actually go down. What's more important is what they're saying in that meeting. So when the Fed met last week, Bernanke initially said, hey, we know there's lag measures, right? Like what we're doing may be working and we're not seeing the results. So it was kind of an indication of we don't need to be so aggressive. The bond market actually rates got a little bit better. Well, they did a press conference after that. And he said, don't get me wrong. Inflation is the number one enemy. We're going to do whatever it takes. Like he kind of did a different conversation and it's all about what he's saying right now. If you hear him say, hey, what we're doing is working and we don't have to be as aggressive, rates are going to come down. If he says, hey, I don't think it's working yet, we need to be aggressive, rates are going to stay up and stay volatile.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Zoe, other thing you had asked about a wraparound mortgage, and I've also been getting asked a lot about assumable mortgages. So let's talk about it. Every FHA loan and VA loan is assumable. In my 16 years, I've never seen it work because this is what happens. Jessica, say you have a $200,000 FHA mortgage at a 3.5% rate. Well, you're not selling your house for $200,000. You're selling it for $400,000. So then the buyer's got to figure out how to come up with the difference to be able to do that piece of it. And it just, most people aren't going to be able to bridge the gap. The second part, because I've dug into this a lot, is if they were able to assume it, there's no lender involved, but there still has to be an underwriting of the risk. So basically, whoever currently services that FHA loan still has to take the new buyer and make sure they qualify to assume it. And they're not going to start that process till you're physically under contract. So basically, you get under contract, even if you worked out the down payment, there's still a chance for the seller that they're not going to be able to assume their loan. And Zoe had asked me about the wraparound loan, and it tries to basically, the seller agrees to basically give the buyer a mortgage for their piece. So there's risk on the buyer's part, or on the seller's part there. And then the new buyer has to go find basically a second mortgage to cover the difference. And I don't know any lenders that's doing that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stuart. Does anybody have any quick questions before we move on to our next guest? Oh, Ben. You're muted.
This may be silly, but it's come up a few times. Is there a standard range of what it costs to run credit? Because you mentioned not running credit till basically you need to.
So Ben,
people.
Yeah, the client never has to pay for credit for us unless they close. So we look at thousands of files. If they don't close, there's no app fee, there's no anything. It's just the cost of doing business for me. So the only reason I said 99% of the time I pull credit, because I don't know if you qualify unless that, because when you're looking at a mortgage, it's credit, income, and assets, right? That's the three things I have to know. The only reason I mentioned not pulling credit is this FHA program. If they've got really low credit, I don't want to ding their credit if we know there's money they can't come up with already. Because it's just one of those things. It's not as simple as, yes, I can get you 100% financing, but there's closing costs you have to cover. So when someone wants to know what their credit is, because the word credit gets messed up, is everyone looks at their Equifax score or Credit Karma. That's not their score that we use to qualify for a mortgage. When you look at credit, there's always different credit models. If you buy a car, your credit score is going to be different as if you buy a house. If you're doing your consumer credit model, it's just different factors, because whoever's lending the money has different risk factors they base it on. So if you ever have a client, zero cost to them. So if you send me a client and I pull credit and their credit's only 480 and they can't buy, there's no fee to them, but I will go ahead and do credit analysis and say, hey, based on the data, here's what you can start doing to get your credit up to the 580 that we need. There are lenders that charge app fees though to cover that. I just have never done it. Like if you're not buying a home, I'm not charging you anything. If they do close the credit, I think it's $39 that they'll see on their closing disclosures, which was whatever the pass-through cost was for us to pull credit.
Anything else? All right, well, I'll be sending out your contact information to everybody, Stuart. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
I appreciate it, Zoe. I will leave you guys with this. If you want to know the key to success in this new market, in my opinion, it is database, database, database. Like it is getting back in touch with, because this is the truth. We've all been so busy the last 2 years, myself included. I became more transactional than I ever intended to be. I want 100% relational business. In order to be in relation, you've got to be in contact with people. Because as I've looked at my business, what I've realized is we're in relation from the time we get the referral until they close. We're talking to them every week. We're loving on them. We're building the relationship. When they close, then we start marketing to them. And there's a difference between sending out newsletters and automated emails than actually doing the birthday calls, having the client events, checking in on them. We've always done a 30-day after closing call to make sure they got their mortgage set up. We do a 30, 60, 90 now. 30, did you get your mortgage up? 60, did you get everything filed for your homestead exemption? 90, do you need any contractors that we can help you with? So I will tell you guys that anyone, I don't have a copy in here, but I just read a book called How to Never Lose a Customer Again. And the concept, Robin already has a copy. And the concept is we have 100 days after somebody uses our product or service in any industry to make them into a raving fan. And if we don't do that, we miss it. So Zoe, when you send out my contact info, I bought 100 copies of this book because I love it. And we've changed a lot of what we do. If you'll email me with your mailing address, I will send you guys a copy as well.
Thank you so much. That'd be great.
Robin, did you read it all?
I haven't read it all. I'm working on it though, Stuart. I
Okay.
promise.
What I will tell you
Great
about this book,
information in there. Yeah.
a lot of the books I give out are like parables and they're just an easy breezy read over the weekend. This book is a cup of coffee in a quiet space with a highlighter in hand because it's more technical, but it is super valuable.
We appreciate that.
Well, thank y'all.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good day.
Bye, Stuart.
Bye.
All right. So you guys, we talked about having more information to hopefully convert leads to clients and getting them pre-approved with different loan types. Let's talk to Robin about keeping them engaged afterwards, after the closing.
Sounds good. Zoe, if you will let me share my screen, I just kind of want to run through.
Okay, try now.
Yep, hang on just a second. We got it?
Yes.
So for me, and Stuart and I meet once in a while and chat, and he believes like I do in client engagement. And for me, I want you developing relationships with your clients. I mean, that's what I do. It's very personal for me. One of my follow-up activities for people is setting reminders, and every 3 months I'm reaching out to clients. To Stuart's point, last year, it was tough to do that every 3 months because it was such a scramble. But I do phone calls and texts depending on kind of what I know about the people and their client preferences. So if they're younger, they're probably getting a text. If they're older people like me, we're getting a phone call and we're having conversations. So I do those things, and I want to do targeted touch points with my clients as well. So I've got the 3 months, I've got the every 3 months I'm reaching out to people. We can supplement that with their home anniversaries. And when I'm looking at these targeted touch points, I kind of base them on client interest. So know who your top clients are, who, as far as repeat and referral business. I have been known to send them restaurant gift cards to their favorite restaurants around the holidays. Of course, I'm a sports fan, so that's one of the things that comes up in conversation with my clients. But I've got some clients who are huge soccer fans. One's a Delta pilot, and he travels a lot to go to international soccer matches. When I heard that the World Cup was coming to Atlanta, I picked up the phone and I called Justin and I called Allison, because that's huge for them. So it's just those lightweight, it's just those personal touches, I think, that keep you in the forefront and keeps that relationship going. It gives you an opportunity to check in with them, make sure everything's going okay. Clients who have, they have a baby, you talk to them. Oh, wow, the baby came. You can send a new baby acknowledgement. What I did with one of mine was, they had the baby. Instead of sending flowers, what I sent, there's a business called Instead of Flowers, and they literally will deliver a meal that's fully prepared, and all they have to do is heat it up and they're good to go. So it's just it's another way to do another touch with people. I follow up with my past clients, believe it or not, and I did it this morning. I have a client who I helped her buy a condo and sell her condo when she took a job in Miami. I reached out to her last hurricane to make sure she was okay, and I reached out to her this morning with Nicole coming through, just to touch base, make sure she was doing okay, and let her know I was thinking about her. Because just because somebody's moved away doesn't mean they don't know somebody who may move to Atlanta. They still have friends in Atlanta. And so it's just a good way to continue that relationship and to check in on them. The other thing I'll do, and this happened very recently, I called to check on Allison, and she said, I don't know if you've talked to Justin, but both of his parents died in the last 6 months. Allison also had gotten a new job in that time period. So I hung up with Allison, I called Justin, I talked to him, and even to follow up with that, I did go ahead and send Allison a congratulations card, and I sent a sympathy card to Justin. So it's just continuing that personal relationship and letting them know that they're important to you and what's going on in their lives is important to you and that they matter. I just think it goes a long way with people. So what I did too was this is just giving an idea. So in 2021, I had 29 transactions. New clients were 59%, but repeat clients and referrals made up 41% of my transactions last year.
That's amazing.
The repeat and client referral activity, 40% bought only, 20% I just helped them sell, but 40% I helped them sell a property and buy a property. So, I mean, your pocketbook will love you because, I mean, you're also getting a higher split when it's your own repeat clients, right? So get that higher split. And I mean, it's just much easier to work with a referral or a repeat client.
Very
Because
true.
the trust, you're coming in with a level of trust that it takes you a little bit of time to develop with a new client. So also in 2021, 48% of my gross commissions came from my repeat clients and their referrals. And 52% was from the new clients. I'll tell you that the more personal your follow-up is, the better the connection with your clients will be. And your personal connections are made throughout the home buying process, and they start with your first conversation and they continue. And when you're on showings, I'll give you 2 examples. I've been on showings with people. Involve everybody, talk to everybody. Don't just focus on the one person who's the buyer. Make it a group activity. I had one client who purchased a home from me. His girlfriend used to come on showings with him. They split up. She bought a condo. Who did she call? She called me because she saw how I was with Jason on our showings. And I have another client who her parents came with us on showings, developed a relationship with them. They're in my pipeline. I follow up with them. So when they're ready to buy, I want them to use me. So it's that, and Zac calls it's your audition. So when you're on those showings, don't just focus on the one person, and just remember, it's a group activity. You can touch base with all of them and just be your genuine self is all I know how to say. The first repeat client referral can occur quickly. I know for me, it took a little bit of time. I had a previous broker who said probably at about 3 years, you can start to really count on getting some more of those referrals and repeat clients. I know Sarah's gotten them sooner. If you're working with investor clients, then you're going to get a lot of that repeat business a lot faster, and you maybe get those referrals going as well. But another lesson I learned is to start tracking your referrals early on in your business when you're not as busy, because when you're not as busy, you think you'll always remember where the client came from. That may or may not be the case. So start tracking those early on so you know where the business is coming from. I just as an example, I pulled just a few of my repeat or my referral clients. And the first one bought a house for $387,000. Their purchase led to another 1.34 million in closed sales. And I have 2 buyers from that person in my pipeline.
Nice.
Yeah. Another one bought a house for 485. That led to another 853 in sales. This person bought a house for 300,000. Additional business from that client has been 1.739 million. And then a $690,000 purchase. They referred a client to me. I helped them sell a townhouse and buy a home, and those 2 sales totaled 1.5 million. So it grows and it blossoms. And I mean, that's just a few of the people that I've worked with, that I've stayed in touch with. And that's the kind of business that can flow off of just one purchase. So I don't know what else to say. For me, it's keeping it personal and letting people know that you care about them and staying in touch on a regular basis.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Robin.
Can I say something real quick about
Yes.
clarify? So I can also attest that the 3-year mark was exactly when things started taking off for me, with past clients coming back, but it's always been the past clients that come back to sell.
Mhm.
A couple of them have led to referrals, but for the most part, I'm getting lots of repeat clients, not so much referrals. So I'm just wondering if there's a difference between how I could, I'm having success getting lots of past clients come back, but why are they not telling other people and sending other people my way?
I
So
know.
do you have any advice between trying to get referrals up when you're doing good with past clients, because they're trusting me and coming back, but they're not telling their friends?
Yeah, it's interesting because, sometimes what I'll do with people is just say, we had such a great time, working together and getting you into your home. Do you have some really cool friends like you? Right? And sometimes that will put it, who need help, who are thinking of buying a home. I don't, but other than that, it's just the follow-up. It's just the, and they will say gosh, every time we know somebody who's buying a house, we give them your name. That doesn't mean they always call me, but at least I know they're thinking of me and they're passing my name along. So I don't know, Jess.
Not doing
I
anything
just,
specific to get those referrals, like versus.
yeah. I mean, the repeat business is great too, though. I had a ton of that last year.
Yeah, and I'm with Robin. I don't have my exact numbers in front of me, but I mean, when you're starting out and you're like, you obviously kind of should take anything that comes your way, but there are just $200,000 condos that have just multiplied over the years.
Mhm.
That when they came back to sell, they were now $350,000 condos, and then they wanted to buy the next property with me as well, and we're upgrading from that first home. So I have multiple too, where it was one small property that turned into 3 transactions that were, then in the 7 figures, all total together. So just because somebody has a lower budget at the beginning does not mean that they're not going to eventually upgrade and want to sell that property that will have appreciated.
Mhm.
So I've definitely seen those kind of snowball over the past couple years.
And the fun ones are because I've got these kind of baked into here, but the fun ones are when somebody refers a client to you and you work with those clients, and then those people refer somebody to you. So the tree gets really, you start to get quite the tree going with client referrals who then refer somebody else to you, and then they refer somebody else to you. And I mean, it's just, it turns into a Megillah, which is why I say start tracking it early. Yeah. So that where these buyers are coming from, where these sellers are coming from. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Thanks, you guys. Oh, go ahead, Jess.
Well, sorry, one last thing is that Robin and I are about to hop on a Google Meet. Robin, I sent you an invite link to that, to talk again with Philip that was here last week, new agent, just kind of talk with him more, ask him some more questions. I wasn't here at all. Drew asked me to talk to him while he was out of town. So if anybody else is available right now, let me know and I will send you the link. I'm going to try and keep it, 30 minutes or less, but if anybody wants to come and can join, let me know and join us to talk to Philip to see if he might be a good fit for the team.
Sounds good. And if anybody else has any more questions, I'm happy to talk and just, share.
And if you wouldn't mind sending me that PDF that you were referring to, that would be great.
Sure. Be happy
Cool.
to.
Thanks, you guys, for staying
Zoe.
late. Really, really appreciate it. I think it was a great meeting. Lots of info.
Yep. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.